Go on Birdland there, we can see a double whammy action. Could it happen if a bird lands and then gets destroyed? This one right here. They know there's a cat down there. Oh, Marion, you should have come.
You are watching Nature with Viva Frei.
That's all I got. I didn't get very much of a glimpse.
I'll bring it back to the beginning.
Over to that side today.
So this is the question for the day, people. There's going to be a number of them. I believe I know the answer. I'm just having a bit of a not an argument, a bet with my wife. She says it's a panther. I say it's a bobcat, but I think we might either both be right or wrong because I've been told that there are these things called hybrids. Because this was bigger than a bobcat, people. Just let the internet decide. Okay, so it has a bit of a white curly tail, but that tail is longer than a bobcat tail, but it's certainly shorter than a panther tail. And it was big. Anyhow, I figured we'd start off with something that would be not non-political because we're actually going to start this show with our sponsor. And holy cows, the stuff that I could have started the show with, it'll make Andrew Dice Clay blush. Because we're going to talk about some hilarious community notes. It might be the best community note in the history of the world. It's going to go into the Internet Hall of Fame. We'll talk about that in a bit. We're going to talk about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. America in the US, Joe Biden. I've been replaying that demented face and that statement in my head all morning. And now I go around the house and I have a good relationship with my wife. Every time now I go and I squeeze her butt and I go, Joe Biden said to smack it in the eye. Okay, it's terrible. There, I said too much. All right, people, we are starting off with our sponsor today because I love our sponsor. Gold. Every time I talk about gold, I feel like the scene out of Idiocracy. I like money. Oh, we're bringing back Nick. We had him on a couple weeks ago. I like the idea of these sort of interview type style Q&A sponsors because some people have questions about sponsors and they want to know things and I want to answer those questions. And instead of fielding the questions myself, Viva, how do we do this? We're just going to have Nick come on in. Nick, you ready? 3, 2, 1. And by the way, Mark Robert is coming on in a few minutes after this. So a word from our sponsor, Monetary Gold. And check out, Nick, what I figured out how to do. Look at this. Bada bing. To the logo. And
I think it was a lynx or a bobcat. And then the community note that you're referring to, I hope I don't spill any. Does it have to do with an ex-Clinton staffer?
Yes, sir, it does.
That was an all-timer right there.
We'll get to it, people, in a bit. It is, I mean, the thing is, I'll flesh into that in greater detail in a bit.
Sorry to get off. Sorry.
No. Also, we'll it's not dinner time talk, as my mother-in-law would say. Nick, for those who don't know who you are you? And I got some questions about Monetary Gold.
I'm Nick Dryman, and then I'm the CFO for Monetary Gold. That is our company, once again, Monetary Gold, and we are a nationwide precious metals company of physical gold, silver, platinum, and palladium, and we provide physical precious metals to our clients, whether it's inside of an IRA or outside of an IRA.
Very cool. The one question, it's going to be the one question you always get. We'll start every one of these off with the same one. What makes Monetary Gold different than the competition?
Great question. I do get that a lot because there's a lot of competition out there. So first thing is just our longevity, very seasoned company, been around going on 25 years right now. So that's great to have in a precious metals company. Also, too, we treat it more hands-on rather than a mom and pop shop where you just go and pick your metals on your own. We'll give guidance and recommendations on what metals you should have. Also, too, throughout the process, you holding your metals, let you know a good time to buy more and or sell. And then down the road, when you do decide to sell, very streamlined, easy process with a buyback policy, which makes it from start to finish easy for our clients.
Okay, fantastic. And the other question which people are asking a lot now is, well, the one I'll ask you is, why does gold seem to keep going up? Setting aside like some fluctuations where it goes down, when people say it's a safe bet, why is it that gold over the thousands of years has always gone up?
It's a unique time that we're in right now, coming into an election year. And if you look at past election cycles or election years, this one specifically right now, you have seen gold perform the best. And it's not, and I say not necessarily a presidential issue. It's more so the debt, right? we're coming up to $36 trillion worth of debt. So if you look at both sides of the fence, if Kamala gets in office, it will probably be the same kind of path we've been down these past 4 years. A lot of printing, spending, open border policies. Other countries around the world just don't value us and our dollar the same. But if Trump gets in, the reason that gold's doing so well right now is that he's going to try to lower interest rates, most likely boost and stimulate the economy. Difference is now compared to 4 years ago, inflation's much higher. The value and the purchasing power of our dollar is down 25% compared to 4 years ago. And so what we're seeing now is that whoever gets into office, someone has to deal with that debt, and it might not be in a timely manner.
Okay, it's amazing. And so another question is, people say if I get 1 ounce of gold, you deliver physical gold to people's addresses. Minimum order is $10,000.
Correct. Physical metals, gold, silver, platinum, and palladium, bricks, bars, coins. We have access to everything.
All right. And so people want increments because you can't necessarily cash out a 1 ounce coin if you need to buy a loaf of bread. They come in different increments as well.
Great question. They do. So for gold, rather than having, say, a kilo bar, a 1 ounce piece, or a bar, you can have fractionals. So a 1/10 ounce coin, a ½ ounce coin, a 1/4 ounce coin. So like you said, times get tough, barter and exchange like we've seen, or just easier for liquidation processes or purposes. Rather than liquidating $5,000 or $10,000 at a time or more, you're liquidating fractionals or increments.
And there's a bit of not of a premium, but they become sort of less efficient if you're going with like 1/10 of an ounce. There's a bit less profitability type thing if people want to do short exchanges with that.
Yes, correct. In a way, is that coins compared to bars, they have different uses, different purposes. It all depends on what the client's looking for to put inside of their portfolio. But whatever it may be, as a company being seasoned 25 years, we make it easy for all of our clients.
So like the 1 kilo bars that Menendez there had in New York, those are not easily liquidatable if you
No, that's the joke around here. Is that the kilo bars you see, that's for in the movies and stuff. As far as like household investors, no, much smaller increments of gold and silver.
All right. And one that I always get as well, if people don't necessarily want to keep gold in their house, they don't want to pull a Fannie Willis and have 40,000 G's worth of gold. How can they store it if they want to buy physical gold but not keep it in their homes?
Great question. Privately held and insured depositories, third party. They're all privately held and insured by Lloyd's of London. And there's a couple different facilities throughout the United States. All your metals are stored safe and secure there in your own safety deposit box, and you can have access to it literally at any time.
Amazing. And I guess the last question that I get a lot, how does it work for rolling over an IRA into gold and then rolling it out if you decide you need to tap into your IRA?
Very easy process, just a paperwork process as far as an IRA transfer or 401k rollover. It takes about 5 minutes. You can call our office. We have a dedicated team and department that helps with the transfer process or the rollover. And then, as I mentioned, just a paperwork process to convert your funds from your current IRA into a precious metals IRA, tax deferred, penalty free process. And then from there, you have physical gold and silver held within your retirement account.
All right. And one for me, is there a difference in terms of potential for profit of gold versus silver? Silver, I never understood why it's so much cheaper than gold. If they're both, in theory, I don't know if they're equally rare metals, but is there one that you recommend over the other in terms of gaining value over a shorter period of time?
Silver, definitely. That's a great question. Right now, short term, you can say mid to long term silver. You're just seeing China purchase a lot of the worldwide silver supply, creating supply and demand. And as we start to get down, it's been echoed a couple times, hopefully get back to that $50 mark within the next 24 months. So yeah, as far as profitability, a lot of folks are looking at silver right now over than gold. But that, I always say, back up, that's not a knock on gold. At the end of the day, like I said, it's not a presidential problem, it's a debt problem. And our dollar is just not doing well in the world right now. And
I guess this might be the real last question. Trump gets elected hypothetically, and I don't know your political leanings. I'll just touch wood from my end. Trump gets elected. Does it matter who gets elected in terms of what the short term, or say the short to near term, of gold prospect is?
Oh yeah, definitely. If you get a Democrat into office, it does play into metals because the policies that come into play, you see gold and silver start to go up in the short term. As far as if Trump gets in, that's kind of why I was touching on the debt. You can't really get rid of it too quick. You can't lower those rates like we saw in 2020 during COVID. So it's kind of just going to stay there, that debt, for a while. So that's why, my personal opinion, Trump or Kamala, it's good for gold and silver right now.
Regardless. Okay, good enough. And they go to monetarygold.com or 476-1303. The link is in the description. The avatar's up there. Well, I can't get there, but Nick, I like this. I like the. It makes me want to. A 1 kilo silver bar is now what? It's is it $1,000, give or take?
A 1 kilo silver bar.
Nick has disappeared from the camera. I'll invade his. Oh, Nick, are you still there?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. I just can't see you.
Oh, you can't see me.
No, it disappeared. I think
about $1,051.
1,050. So you can get a kilo or you get a few of them and then walk around the house like a Menendez, but it'll be silver bars instead of. And they're small, a silver kilo bar. Like it's like I'm trying to think of like 2 chocolate bars placed together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then 100-ounce bars more so like that, and then a 10-ounce bar more so like that. So with silver, just stick with coins or smaller bars. Best way to go about it.
Amazing, Nick. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome,
Everyone.
David, I appreciate it.
I know, I love it. We'll do this again. The link is in the description, and when you leave, we're going to get into the community note.
I'm gonna listen in. So thank you. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. Thanks again. Have a good day.
You too. Bye bye. Dude, I have the jokes for there's so many jokes. There's crossover jokes between the community note. Monetary Gold, it's our sponsor. I know this. Look, gold has been historical, and I had to go and do a good due diligence with Monetary Gold. They're amazing. Period. Full stop. If you don't want to keep the gold in your house, you can go into one of the insured deposit boxes. Not everybody lives like Fannie Willis. You can't really do it with the bills, but you do it with like gold coins, just flick them around. Here you go. I just carry 40,000. It's my father always told me to keep $40,000 in gold, silver coins of different denominations, just in case the poo-poo hits the fan and you have to leave the country. Good afternoon, everybody. The next face I expect to see in the screen. Hold on. What do you want? Yeah. Really? A fire at the old mill. Hold on. I got to let the dog out of the room here. Oh, get out. Okay. Yeah, Monetary Gold. Fantastic stuff. Thank you for the sponsor and also gold people. I know there's other people. There's other people who have different ideas of investments. The one that has stood true and tested over time. All right, now we can get into the good stuff. Hold on. Before I gotta go back to Viva Frei in the corner and wait. Now we can get into Monica Lewinsky. Pun intended, people. I'm going to hell. All right. Mark Robert's coming. We're going to talk election stuff, but some just hilarity. Like it's a slow news day. It's the day before the election. Not much has happened since 9:30 last night when we ended our amazing vivabarneslaw.locals.com Sunday night extravaganza. But there has been some funny stuff. And I'm just going to put it on blast because tomorrow is the day where you overwhelmingly show up at the voting booth because you've already overwhelmingly showed up in early voting, and you send a decisive victory to the world. Enough is enough. Tomorrow is the day Americans take back America from the commies that have been running the country for the last 4 years, and then the 8 years before the 4 years prior. And for everybody saying, well, Trump, did he learn his lessons from his first 4 years? Yeah, I think nothing like catching a bullet through your ear that will make you realize fun time is over. Placating the swamp is over. And the only thing that changes everything tomorrow is a decisive victory, not one where you're arguing over hanging chads. It's the one where you say, F you, this is what the people want, not your commie bullshit. And if you needed to just have a window into your future, we're going to start with the video. I'm approaching this story with the requisite degree of skepticism. It could turn out that Mark Longo, he has an OnlyFans and people don't really like people who show their privates for money. I am not judging anybody for that. It's not something I would do. It's something that I think is a mistake that comes back to haunt people. But I don't know what people need to do to survive in these times. And I will not sure as hell say, because you've done something that I morally disagree with, you are then ripe for the tyranny. Bullcrap. This is a video that Mark published. It's on someone else's Twitter feed, but I had to double check. It's authentic. Of the aftermath of his house after the raid by the Gestapo out of New York State. Listen to
The officer opened the back of the toilet to see if I was hiding. The officer opened the back of the toilet to see if I was hiding something in there. That's to find a squirrel. Let somebody come in here and do this to your house.
First of all, call me all old-fashioned. I'm not sure that I care what they're looking for, unless it's seriously dirty CP stuff. You don't ransack somebody's house and then leave. Now, do I expect you to get a maid service and clean it up? No. But when I interviewed Roger Stone and they ransacked his house over, I forget even what did they get arrested for? What did Roger Stone get charged with? They ransacked his house, broke his electronics because he had his studio at home, and misplaced where he has lost, from what I remember, a transcript of something he'd been working on for years. You do not get to do this. My house is not the government's house. I don't invite the government into my house. And even if they get a warrant, you come in and you ransack it like the citizens have no rights or no rights to privacy whatsoever. I guess once you get a warrant, you don't. This is not how you leave somebody's house.
And keep it like this. I actually have,
by the way,
broken soap bottles on the ground.
This is how you can tell rage in his voice. He's not screaming. He's not. It's like overwhelming rage that you can detect in his voice.
I have a stain on my ground. This is to find a squirrel. This is to find a squirrel. This is to find a squirrel. You see that? That's that. See that? Do you see this, guys? You see that?
Can you imagine having someone come through your
You want to tell me
what do they think? This is Bill Clinton's house?
That's acceptable. This is the destruction that these people left in my house. So if you guys want to explain to me how this wouldn't devastate you, I have never been in trouble with the law whatsoever. There's another suitcase that came out of the closet. I don't have anything else to show you guys because the mind-blowing thing is the only places that they fucking destroyed was my room. The only things they destroyed were my room. They raided my house for a squirrel and a raccoon.
I don't care if he has an OnlyFans page. I mean, he's a physically fit individual, and if he can make a good living doing it and feel okay with himself, that's up to him. You don't get to raid someone's house like that, except in communist regimes, statist regimes, Gestapo-esque regimes, where they knock on your door and say, open up. We're not from the government and we're here to help. We're from the government and we're here to rifle through your shit, is basically what happened. So you want to know what a future under a Kamala Harris regime looks like? It's that. And I made a joke in the tweet. It's like, yeah, if they did this for an unlawful squirrel and a raccoon, they're going to do it for your firearms. When Kamala Harris comes in with her mandatory buybacks, and some people ain't selling their guns back. Mandatory buyback from a government that didn't have ownership over the guns, that's called confiscation. If they did it for a squirrel and a raccoon, they're going to do it for guns. They're going to do it for kids who come out as trans and their parents misgender them, and now their kids don't feel safe at home. They're going to come for your kids. They're going to come for unjabbed kids. They're going to come for homeschool kids. They're going to come for the meme makers, people. They're going to rifle through your house looking for where you're hiding the memes, the disinformation, the misinformation, because Kamala Harris and No Balls Tim Walz came out and said they want to criminalize misinformation. Hillary Clinton, that George Soros looking old, weigh my words, came out and said we should be locking people up. So that's what a future looks like under a Kamala Harris, Tim Walz regime. So get out tomorrow and vote like it. And speaking of criminalize, they want to criminalize misinformation and disinformation, except when they're the ones spreading it. Don't look at the punchline. Don't look at the punchline. Here we go. Look at this. Look at this. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Love it whenever they speak, you know, she and others, they speak with an American accent until they say like one word that has to show that they're talking to Latinas. And Puerto Rico. She talks totally normal and then throws in the words, because that's how she shows this superficial affiliation, while she's lying to the smooth-brained, low-information voters who follow her on Twitter. Eyes on Puerto Rico. Tonight, Puerto Ricans amassed the second largest political rally this entire cycle, behind only Harris's 75,000-person lip speech. Remember, it's Trump who's fixated on crowd sizes. Over 50,000 Boricuas rallying for the anti-Trump, anti-corruption Alianza movement, and Juan Dalmau, PR, who is the Vamos a construir una patria nueva. Hasta donación. See, I can speak with a good accent. I just have no idea what I just read. Unless it relates to French, I have no idea what I just read. Political earthquake. Take a deep breath, everybody, and get ready to say, AOC, you scumbag. Nailed. Readers added context they thought people might want to know. Yeah, I might want to know if that's not an anti-Trump rally. I might want to know if that's not a political rally of this cycle. You know, this dirty, rotten scoundrel of an AOC is going to say, well, technically, it is a rally in this cycle. It's just not in the American cycle. It's in Puerto Rico. Oh, and by the way, it has nothing to do with Trump whatsoever. The depicted rally is the Festival de la Esperanza, hosted by anti-colonial parties of the Movimiento Victoria Ciudadana, MVC, and Partido Independentista. See here, there, that's Independent Party. Puerto Rico. See, that I can understand is the Independent Party of Puerto Rico. Ahead of the next colonial elections. It has nothing to do with any of the U.S.'s main parties. And I went to the link on the video and it checked out before. I had to double check because even I don't trust community notes. I had to double check before I went and roasted the bejesus out of AOC. Oh, shit. Did AOC just get owned by a community note? Turns out she's not only stupid, she's a liar, a double threat, or if you're a Democrat, a double asset. Let me share the link here. Okay, I see Gro Bear in the backdrop, but we'll bring up the we'll get into Monica Lewinsky. Anyhow, they're liars, scumbags, and scoundrels. So you want to criminalize misinformation? AOC, right to jail. You overcook the fish, right to undercook the fish, right to jail. Serve the drink with not enough vermouth, right to jail. Okay, before I bring in Gro Bear here, there's only one choice, sir. It's Donald Trump, but Donald J. Trump by a landslide. Not waking up next day and that laughing nutcase one, hells to the bells. No, I'm adding that. Freedom. And then we got, how do I get this one here? Long live Viva. Thanks for all you do, bro. That's from Alexander B. Thank you very much. And then we got Florida Dad, Bobcat. Florida gets big bobcats. Panther would have a longer tail. Yep. Okay, that's what I'm going with. Unless it's a bobcat, a panther that lost its tail. Or a hybrid panther bobcat. They make of the sexy time. And then you get a bobther or a pancat. You get a pancat. Grobert, are you ready to come in?
So I don't even know what you're talking about over here. I just woke up and now I'm on your show. It's 1 minute I'm eating Brontosaurus burgers at your house, and the next minute we're doing a live broadcast.
Gro Mark, everybody knows who Mark is. Untold, America's Untold Stories, fantastic channel with Hunley, Lord Buckley on X, and you're now you're now my friend. You've been my friend for a long time. Yeah. Mark was over Saturday night. He didn't like my 2-day-old rice out of the rice cooker. I noticed.
Look, I mean, it came from Vietnamese boat people. Who am I to say they didn't smuggle it over in some unforeseen package there, Viva?
It's a little known thing. I've kept rice in a rice cooker for like 2 weeks, and some people say, "Oh, it gets bad after a day." There might have been some dry pieces, which were whatever. My wife Marion wasn't here, so the dinner was a boys' night out.
It was boys' night out, but your daughter and her boyfriend made a wonderful macaroni and cheese using YouTube as its guide. I know there were community notes on the macaroni and cheese, but it still came out well.
Mark, have you seen? Well, okay, so hold on. We're talking election stuff today. Did you see the election? Did you see the community note to end all community notes?
I haven't seen anything. I'm I'm new to this game. I don't know what you got going on.
Let me bring. I got to hold on. Everyone try. No, not this one. It will make you laugh. Here we go. Okay. Close your eyes, Mark. Close your eyes. We got to go. Okay. We got to go here. Okay. Oh, come on. No, here. Now you can open them.
Okay.
This is from an account called Sam at Samantha_SN1. And Samantha is a young woman, or she's a relatively young woman. So it makes the tweet even funnier. But okay. She says, Bill Clinton, this is after Monica Lewinsky comes out and says, please vote, preferably like I did, for the party that sexually allegedly
abused me. Yeah, sexually abused me.
Bill Clinton stuck cigars in her ass, jizzed on her, and made her sleep in a GIMP box at the White House. And she's like, yeah, I'll keep voting for that team because I'm just a stupid piss mop idiot. Next level stupid right here. Mark, it got community noted. Where do you think it's getting community noted?
The GIMP box. She was never in a GIMP box.
Bill Clinton inserted the cigar into Monica Lewinsky's vagina.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't see that coming.
You see the link for Pew Research. Hold on. You see the link for Pew Research, and I'm like, first I thought it was a gag yet again. Pew Research wrote an article on the cigar. The
Oh,
cigar
my
in
God.
late August, the rumor of Lewinsky using a cigar as a sexual toy began making the rounds in Washington.
Right.
What year is this from? 1998.
98? Okay.
It's the most glorious thing ever. The internet can be a beautiful place sometimes.
Well,
such
let
as
me
this.
just talk about Lewinsky, because her demands for silence were negotiated through the famous African-American attorney Vernon Jordan, who was a Democratic operative, and he was sent by Bill Clinton to negotiate with Monica Lewinsky about what she wanted to shut the F up. So Vernon Jordan picks up the phone and he says, "I hope you're sitting down because this is what she wants." And Bill Clinton says, What is it? What does she want?" And she wanted to be a VJ on MTV. And Clinton lost his shit and threw the phone against the wall. They negotiated that down, I think, to a book deal or some corporate job. I forget what her job was, but her initial demands for silence involved being a VJ on MTV.
From V. Did you ever grow up with the term VG for vagina?
No.
No, you never heard. Like I grew up with two terms. Like we used to call number twos jobbies, which apparently only the
Never
Scots
heard of
do.
that. Never
Yeah,
heard of that.
because I had a one of my tripods was called Jobby, and I was like, a Jobby. That's like we grew up with Jobby being like a number two, and VGs for vagina. So she wanted to go from the VG to the VJ. By the way, just for everybody who doesn't know, Mark, you are the encyclopedia. I don't want to even limit it to conspiracies to Hollywood. You are.
No, it's just pop culture. It's just a pop culture thing.
You're an encyclopedia in the way Barnes is an encyclopedia from law and history. You know what? Give people a 30-second overview, because you have a
former editor of National Lampoon magazine. I created MTV magazine. I produced Mambo Mouth with John Leguizamo as a theater producer. Back in the day, I produced documentaries for HBO, usually in the comedy vein, and then got into journalism. I was an investigative reporter for the LA Weekly, which is the Village Voice, for about 12 years, doing straight up journalism in terms of print. And then got into different situations in Hollywood, where I'm based. I'm in West Palm now, but because we're having the big meetup tomorrow, but I'm based in Hollywood, California. So a lot of show business stuff, screenwriting, working with Oliver Stone on multiple screenplays and projects and stuff like that. And it's just a long stuff, but it's mostly pop culture and it's mostly show business.
Okay, so now everybody knows about the cigar, all this stuff, but maybe people don't remember the details. Monica Lewinsky was 20 and change, a young 20, when Bill
from Beverly Hills, actually from Beverly Hills. Yeah.
Not for nothing, and I don't want to sound like an anti. She's a young Jewish lady, correct?
Yeah.
The reason I say that's potentially relevant is I had never put much stock into the theory until she comes out and endorses the party that allegedly Me Too'd her. There were rumors that she was a Mossad, some form of a plant to get blackmail material on Bill Clinton. Had you ever heard that?
No.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Well then, I think that she was an intern like others were interns. In fact, I'll just tell you this, and you can move on from the Monica Lewinsky story into election fraud. But Monica Lewinsky showed up at the Gatehouse one night for her usual evening, whatever it was, with Bill Clinton. And they wouldn't let her in right at the Gatehouse. And she looked at the logbook, and that was because Walter Mondale's daughter was having a fling with Bill Clinton at the time. And she exploded. She went nuts. And Bill Clinton went nuts afterwards, telling the Secret Service never to put anyone's name in that logbook who was visiting with him at the time. Mondale's daughter was some sort of reporter at the time, but she was also allegedly having a fling with Bill Clinton. And the two worlds collided that particular night.
Well, I can't get off the story just yet, Mark.
Nothing's close. I mean, this is just chump change compared to LBJ. LBJ had so many paramours, so much sex in the White House. Bill Clinton is nowhere near the level of LBJ's involvement with sexual escapades.
And if you've never heard the Mossad rumor, then I will swiftly scrap it, because
I've never heard that. I've never heard that in my life.
The dress now I have to refresh my own memory. I know that there was a blue dress that had stains on it.
Right. She goes to an operative who really was an operative, a political operative. I forget the woman's name now, and she realized
Linda Tritt.
Yeah, Linda Tripp, I think her name. Tripp, I think her name
Tripp
was.
or Tritt. I remember that because the SNL.
Tripp, I think it was
funny,
Linda
made
Tripp.
fun of her.
And Tripp saw that this was a political weapon that could be used, and that's where it came from. And everything started with that dress and Linda Tripp's involvement with the dress.
It was a dress that had Bill Clinton's DNA on it.
Yeah, according to
not
Starr,
saliva from what I
Starr,
understand.
the special prosecutor Starr ends up becoming the dean of Pepperdine University in Malibu. By the way, it's kind of an interesting Bueller-like moment afterwards. Kenneth Starr is the special prosecutor I was referring to.
Okay, that's amazing. All right, fantastic.
So it's a lot of tit for tat. I mean, when you talk about Mueller being a special prosecutor or others on the left, they don't forget what Kenneth Starr put Bill Clinton through, by the way.
Well, okay, before we get into the subject matter, what do they call it? The Clinton list? What are your thoughts on whether or not there's a bona fide Clinton list? Arkansas?
I never bought into them.
Okay.
I mean, there's conspiracies and there's conspiracies. Like, as I said to Hunley all the time on the show, if everything's a conspiracy, nothing's a conspiracy. I mean, you can't, at some point, not everything cannot be a conspiracy.
No, or everything is a conspiracy. And it's just a question of how outlandish.
It's just not my cup of tea. I mean, there's plenty of conspiracies out there to go around. I don't think I have to dig up any more. But go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, to get into this, Mark, it's a very weird thing. Like, we disagree on fundamental things, and I don't know why you're voting for Kamala Harris, but I'm joking, everybody. Okay, I'm joking. I don't even want anyone thinking that was serious. But I'm going to play this because this is going to be the segue into we're going to.
Oh, okay, sure. Go ahead.
If this is not a disqualifying statement, I mean, it's too late to disqualify except at the ballot box. Listen to this.
How did you vote on Prop 36?
Prop 36 is the California bill to recriminalize shoplifting and to recriminalize drug possession and stuff like that. Listen to this.
How did you vote on Prop 36?
So my ballot is on its way to California, and I'm going to trust that it will arrive there. And I am not going to talk about the vote on that because honestly, it's Sunday before the election, and I don't intend to create an endorsement one way or another around it. So, but I did vote.
She doesn't intend to create an endorsement around.
There's so much public endorsements on 36. It's really.
36 is
36 is to re-felonize crimes that used to be felonies that were reduced to misdemeanors by a previously nefariously worded ballot measure that nobody could figure out, and they voted yes on 36 back in the day, which reduced many felonies to misdemeanors. Let me just put it that way. And now there's another ballot initiative to restore it back to where it was before.
Just so everyone knows, he is obviously way too intelligent. It was such a joke that I actually feel bad if anybody on earth thought there was an modicum of seriousness to it. She says, like, I don't want to take a position on that, although I'm running to be president, but then simultaneously takes a very, very active position on all of the abortion amendments that are on various.
No, it's crazy. It's an innocuous amendment. I mean, it's not like he's calling for the death penalty or something. It's not that crazy. 36
the only question is whether or not if she voted no on it because she's a soft on crime abortionist, or if she's just an idiot and doesn't even know what it is, and that's how she avoided having to take a position because she didn't even know what the amendment was.
Well, oddly enough, I mean, Newsom and Bonta, who's the Attorney General in California, who worded the Attorney General in California gets to write the actual. This is bizarre. Gets to write the actual physical ballot initiatives, and they bring in experts on how to cloud these and how to confuse people with the wording, Viva, on these ballot initiatives that are psychological experts on confusion and distortion. And they're very effective to muddying the waters, so where you have to bring in forensic ballot guys who can then interpret it through some sort of a lens to understand what they're talking about. 36 is one of those, but she would be going against, I don't know why she just couldn't say she was going to vote no. I think it's going to win by a landslide, so it's not even an issue. Who cares what she does?
No, I'm wondering. My initial reflex was that she's just a lawless anarcho-tyrannist of a leader, but I'm thinking more likely than not now she just actually didn't know what it was and didn't want to look stupid.
Oh, that's possible. That's definitely possible.
We went over the amendments, Barnes and I, yesterday, and I was just reading the Florida ones, and they're incomprehensible. Like
there are people. This is all they do. They're hired. These are consultants who are hired to obfuscate the intention of these ballot initiatives.
Before we get into any of this, so California, you got Newsom and Bonta.
Yeah.
Bonta has a wild history of corruption / incompetence / worse. How familiar are you with Bonta's history?
He's just a clone of Newsom. I mean, he was appointed by Newsom originally because what's his face became a senator, and now he's Padilla is now in the Senate, and now Garvey is going to lose to Adam Schiff by a landslide. So Schiff is going to be a senator for life, unless he has some other scandal or some other thing. Garvey, who, in case people don't know, is a former baseball player, played for the Dodgers for many years, a fantastic baseball player, but he refused to embrace MAGA, refused to embrace Trump, and refused to ask for an endorsement, is now down by 33 points.
To Adam Schiff for brains, shifty eyes, shithead McSchiff.
Who had a huge war chest. I mean, let's be, I just want to be fair.
Yeah.
Schiff had a mega Pelosi war chest, and from other sources, to run against Garvey, and he kind of backed Garvey in as his opponent, who he wanted to run against. Now, Nate Hochman, who's been on my show, is going to defeat George Gascon, the Marxist district attorney from Los Angeles, formerly of San Francisco. He's going to win by a landslide and defeat Gascon. So Nate Hochman, who is a Republican, will become district attorney of Los Angeles, which is going to really, really stop the bleeding and hemorrhaging in that city regarding crime. Former Justice Department official who is going to win by a landslide over Gascon, who is a Cuban Marxist. And it's just one of the craziest political characters in the history of American politics.
I'm just looking up Schiff's campaign. Spent huge amounts for Senate. It says he spent 22.3 million on advertising. Yeah. Most of 14.8 million for video production services. Wow. Okay, so there'll be a Republican DA for Los Angeles
County, which is the largest county in America. It's over 10 million people, Viva. So the power of that office, thousands, I think there's over 1,000 prosecutors in there. I mean, it's just an enormous office. Most of them had resigned, turned against Gascon, or at least filed letters of protest against him. And Gascon, what Soros has done, by the way, has taken public defenders and put them in positions of power in DA's offices in blue cities around the country. That was what he did. He didn't pluck these people from outer space. These were people, not Gascon personally, but his staff and other assistant district attorneys around the country came from the other side, from public defender offices. So to say they're soft on crime is kind of, silly, because they were in the public defender's office.
I was just looking up the stats on Polymarket for Schiff, or at least for the, what's the seat? Polymarket for the California Senate election winner. Yeah, is 99% in terms of the market.
It's as close as you could get. And Garvey's still attempting to raise money. Now, Garvey has had a nefarious past regarding finances and money and everything else. And I think he's just going to keep the campaign money for himself. I think that's what he's doing here.
Okay, that's very fascinating. Now, when you were over and you were sort of blowing my mind on the history of ballot harvesting, the history of election fraud.
Yeah, let me just give you a background on this. For instance, my grandfather, Jack Bloom, was a campaign manager in New York City, the mayor of New York. So he was also part of the Democratic machine, which was Meade Esposito. Back in the day, my grandfather was a ward leader. He was the campaign manager for a one-term reform mayor named Impalatieri after O'Dwyer fled the city to Mexico facing indictment, as Truman, the Democratic president, appointed him to become the ambassador to Mexico. This is the sitting mayor of New York in 1952, flees to Mexico because he's about to be indicted. The same thing happened with Joe Biden and Garcetti, the mayor of Los Angeles, who was about to be indicted for building and housing bribery and corruption for building frauds. He was named as the ambassador to India. So the Democrats repeat all the things that they've done historically. They always repeat them. And I urge your audience to look into the history of the Democratic Party, because you will see them repeating things from decades before, which they learned at their grandfather's knees, like I did. So a lot of the things I'm going to tell you now, I learned from my grandfather and learned on my own. But there are things that are set in concrete, and Viva's mind was blown the other night by stuff that, you know, we all know to be a matter of fact.
Well, even the idea that at one point in time you couldn't talk about the potential unlawful, or not the games that people were known to have played. This is historical fact as far as American elections go. I never lived through like pre-digital or pre-electronic. So you're how are you? Do you say how old you are? You don't say that.
No, what your obsession with age has got to stop.
No, because
let's get into 1948. This was way before I was born. But let's start with 1948. LBJ running for Senate in Texas versus Coke Stevenson, who was the former governor. In that particular race, 6 days after the polls closed, down in Jim Wells County, Texas, 202 votes were found, 200 for LBJ and 2 for Coke Stevenson. This will eventually lead in a week or so after this to LBJ winning his Senate seat by 87 votes. He's then nicknamed by the American press as Landslide Lyndon. That sticks with him his entire life. He goes to the U.S. Senate, where he becomes Senate Majority Leader, eventually Vice President, eventually President of the United States.
Stop you there, teacher.
Go ahead.
They call him Landslide Lyndon. Is that irony, sarcasm?
Yeah, sarcasm. Yeah, sarcastic, of course. Yeah. He wins the Senate race by 87 votes. 200 are stolen 6 days after the election, and they end up in a famous or infamous Box 13 down in Jim Wells County. This is done by the Duke of Duval County, George Parr, who is a power broker down there in South Texas. And people in Texas know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're from South Texas, you were raised with these stories. So he gets the votes for Lyndon Johnson, and this is George Parr, who is the Duke of Duval County. You could kind of look it up. Even Wikipedia has the
and this is just
a rough story about it. You could read about it. Robert Caro has written about it, and other historians. I'm not talking about stuff from outer space.
No, I know. And so the YouTube overlords can go suck a lemon if they have an issue with any of this. This is
he becomes Landslide Lyndon in 1948. He was a congressman, and then he becomes a senator. And that allows him to become eventually Vice President of the United States. But he cements his corrupt power in the Senate.
And pause you there again. Yeah. Does everybody know that it's corrupt at the time, or do they think it's legit? And so
no. That's why they call him. There was investigations. There was an investigation that determined what I just said was true. They had
it's like he walks around like, haha. Everyone's like, yeah, you really screwed me there. We'll cheat better next time, or hopefully you'll make a mistake next time when cheating and we'll bust you. Like, that's how politics is.
Yeah. So let's cut to 1960. Nixon versus Kennedy in the presidential race. What happens in Illinois? Illinois is brought to the Kennedy side by Mayor Richard Daley, the power broker in Chicago, delivers the state of Illinois to JFK, so he becomes president of the United States versus Nixon. Now, Illinois, there's an urban myth, Illinois alone did not put JFK over the top. He could have lost Illinois and still won the presidency of the United States. However, Southern Illinois and Chicago is delivered to the JFK camp by Mayor Richard Daley. 1960, Nixon says, let it go. His attorney says, let's sue them. Let's get into it. Nixon says, I don't want to make more out of this. We'll get him next time. So Nixon takes it up the ass and says, we'll get him next time. That's how it's done in politics in America. Nobody goes to war over being the victim of a stolen election. Coke Stevenson sued LBJ and tried to win this case. It went to the United States Supreme Court, by the way, under Coke Stevenson, the victim in the Landslide Lyndon Box 13 case in 1948. And Stevenson still loses and has to take it up the ass because of LBJ and Landslide Lyndon.
I don't mean to be mean. Who the hell calls their kid Coke?
He was very famous, really a cowboy. People who know
maybe it was like KOCH or something.
No. He was a very, very famous Texan. People from Texas know who.
I'm looking up the etymology of the name.
Yeah.
Please go on.
Anyway, so just regarding the 1960 race out of the presidential race, Nixon is a loser, goes into the wilderness, runs for California governor spot in 1962, loses that, does not come back for a real long time until 1968. Now, what happens in 1968? Same exact situation. Now he's got a guy named John Mitchell. John Mitchell will become the Attorney General of the United States. But right now, John Mitchell in 1968 is the brilliant campaign manager for Richard Milhous Nixon. And what happens in Illinois is exactly the same thing. We're on the eve of the election. Tomorrow it's in Illinois. The vote count comes in slowly, and they're holding back votes out of Chicago. However, because of 1960, John Mitchell has them holding back votes in Illinois. Because if you tell them the final tally, then the mayor, Daley, is able to top it. This goes back and forth till the wee hours of the morning in a poker game between Mayor Daley and the legendary John Mitchell, who was absolutely brilliant. And he gets Mike Wallace on the phone, John Mitchell. Mike Wallace, famously from 60 Minutes, Chris Wallace, his son, who goes to Fox News and now is over at CNN. Mike Wallace is called by John Mitchell, and he says, tell Daley to knock it off. I got votes. I can do this all effing night. And Mike Wallace gets on the phone, famously, to Mayor Daley in Chicago and says, Mitchell says he's got enough votes to do this against you all night. And what does Daley do? He concedes. He turns in his final tally. This is topped by John Mitchell, who has withheld Republican votes in Northern Illinois, playing the game like the poker game that it is. And Nixon wins Illinois in 1968, wins the presidency, and the rest is history.
Okay, but hold on. This is what was the first time with LBJ at the local? The first one was at what level again?
Senatorial.
And so that one was decided by under 100 votes. What were the scale? What was the total number of votes cast? Because in Illinois, I presume it's at scale now. Like you're dealing with, it's not a
yeah. I'm going to a higher number. But it's still at the state level of Illinois. So I don't know the exact numbers that he topped him by, but he did top him. Now I'm going to take you to California in 2015. We're going to bring it into modern day California to show you how we got to where we are today. So there are these dead voter lists in California, and the dead voter lists are purchased by politicians to compete with each other. It's a one-party state.
But as you explained to me, they're not consisting of dead people. The dead voter list consists of
it's anything. It's everything.
People who were on the list in the prior election,
right,
who have left, died, or whatever. I don't know what the other options are.
Right. The left, died, were transported off of the planet, or whatever the reason is.
Or decided they don't want to vote. Okay. So
they don't want to vote. Yeah. The most valuable one is
their names and addresses
are still on. Like, for instance, Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch successfully in 2019 sued LA County to remove their inactive voter from the voter list, right? So you say, how many could that be?
Well, and how do you determine who's inactive? Like, I didn't see Tom Fitton's lawsuit. I mean, how do you determine? You can get lists of dead people. I presume that's easy.
Right. Yeah. So their list of people who have moved or were dead was 1.5 million in LA County alone, Viva.
How
Just
often
think about
do
what
they
I'm
do
telling
this?
you.
No, but it's insane. Like I'm going to go look.
This 2019, Fitton wins the lawsuit, and now Padilla, who was the attorney general back then, is ordered by the court to remove 1.5 million. None of that happened. He won the lawsuit. They didn't remove anybody.
How often do they clean up the voter rolls?
That's what I said to you. It's constantly in flux. There's no rules as to doing it. Some states do it every year. Some never do it. Some do it every 5 years. It's all over the map. It's one of the weakest Achilles heels of American elections. And that's why I'm going to take you through how the fraud happens. Because
the idea, like hypothetically, over the last 4 years, I don't know how many millions of people have left California to come to Florida. If they don't update their voter rolls, these people still might be on the rolls. Their address is now someone else.
Right. So who? The key is who has that knowledge, who has access to that knowledge. And that's corrupt county clerks, people in the parties that are in power. In this case, it's a one-party state. So Democrats have access to the people who have moved. They know who's dead. You can get the names of dead people. You can get those, and you get the names of people who have left. Okay, so let's say 1 million people have left or they're dead. That is gold. That information, those lists, those dead voter lists, which includes people moving, is gold. It's political gold. You know why? Because they have created a currency in many states around the country. All the political operatives have created a currency where they sell lists to each other for X amount of money, and the list have X amount of dead or moved voters. In other words, you could buy a list of 5,000 dead voters, and we'll use dead just as a generic term. You could buy a list of 10,000 dead voters for $200,000. Now, whoever raises the most money in that campaign, the reason they're raising money is to buy these lists, besides media buys and rallies. It's to pay for these dead voter lists, Viv.
I'm gonna bring up this chat. Stop interrupting and let him tell the story. No, first of all, I'm gonna keep it.
No, it doesn't matter. You can interrupt me all you want.
Because I think I need to clarify points that I.
Okay, go ahead. I don't care.
When you say corrupt county clerks, on the one hand,
I mean, the county clerks
partisan numbers. Yeah, like a partisan person who says, "I really want to see Kamala get elected," and she's running for Senate.
But I'm just using California as an example because it's the same party. The reason we know about this, the reason it's been exposed in California, is you have two guys who are Democrats running against each other, and on occasion, one will sue the other after they lose because they've been outplayed in this card game. So we now know the card game. Let me tell you the card game. The card game is, if I'm sitting on 50,000 dead voters, I don't know what the other guy has. He may have 40, he may have 50. The point of the matter is, you don't play your whole hand. You may throw out 3,000 at a time, Viva, and go up by 1,500 in a race, and he counters with 4,000 dead voters. Now, you don't know how many he's sitting on. So the whole thing is a poker game that's played out incrementally. Now you say, well, isn't it over election night? Ha, 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 ha. Let me explain that to you. So the reason it's not over election night and the reason they changed this was in 2015. California, I'm using it as an example because as California goes, so goes the nation with a lot of different things culturally. They began the postmark deadline rule in 2015, that the postmark was on election day. It didn't matter when the ballot got there. Now, keep in mind, there's a guy named Mark Berman, who is the one who's the mastermind behind mass mail-in ballots in California, turning it into a total mail-in state. You've got kids, Armenian gang members, who drive around picking up ballots, taking them to safe houses in San Bernardino. And I'm saying San Bernardino is generic. They go around apartment buildings and houses around Southern California or wherever they want to do this, and they steal absentee ballots that are waiting for the owner. They scoff them up. How do I know this? Because mine got scoffed up, and I got called by a sheriff from San Bernardino County one night saying, do you know Alexandria Hamalamalam? And I go, no. And he says, well, he's got a car filled with absentee ballots, mail-in ballots, and regular mail that they scoff up also in his car. So the plot is they pick up these ballots, they take them to a safe house, and the Armenian gangs, and I use Armenian, could be any gang, but there are Armenians doing this. The Armenian gangs broker deals with the politicians. The politicians are trying to distance themselves from having cutouts of being involved with the physicality of what I'm telling you.
Not just plausible deniability, but actual layers of not
connectedness. No, absolutely. So they'll say, I need 10,000 absentee ballots, and the Armenian gang will say, that'll cost you $150,000. So a kid will run out and broker this deal between cash and the ballots. Then you've got another safe house where the ballots are filled out. And then you see what Dinesh D'Souza eventually showed was the person just coming with the ballots and putting them into the ballot drop box. That's what Dinesh caught at the very end. What I'm telling you is there's a whole huge procedure before you get there. And this procedure is this poker game of dead voter lists against politicians within the party itself. 2015, let me just backtrack. They passed a law saying that if the ballot is postmarked on election day, Viva, it still counts. Okay. You follow that so far? Yeah. Okay. So when you say postmark, what is a postmark, Viva?
Well, it's someone stamping it, and they just flip a number on a
That's
sticky
right.
device, and
That's
bam,
right.
bam.
So the corrupt
Oh,
postal.
backdating in law, and it's
That's right,
illegal.
that's right, right. Corrupt postal officials who are Democratic Union people
Endorsing the candidate publicly already.
absolutely are involved in altering the postmark on the stamp. It's very easy. You just change the little numbers and you stamp it. Okay, that's been exposed. So that was a law that they came up with to allow ballots to have the postmark on them of the day, to election day, to be counted. Okay, so that went pretty well. And then they changed the law a couple of years later, and they made it 3 days after election day. Just follow this. Just follow where I'm going with this.
If it is postmarked 3 days,
3 days, 3 days.
3 days after the election day.
That's right. They
Okay,
changed it to 3 days.
hypothetically, I put it in a mailbox, and it took them a long time to get to the mailbox because I'm
That's
out in the
right. That
sticks.
was the argument. And,
Okay.
and they kept coming up with this argument that it increases voter turnout as if they're social engineers. Like there are people who don't want to vote. They're basically using an argument of why they're doing this. Forget about COVID. I'm not even going to get into COVID because this happened 10 years before COVID. The argument was it increases turnout as if that's their job. You know, thousands and millions of people don't want to vote. That's a right too, Viva. Okay.
No, I'm just saying, like, when I send a letter to my kid in camp and they're out in the sticks, they get it within 5 days. There's no sitting in a box for 3 days until they decide to pick it up. Okay.
Okay, hold on. The 3-day rule, that law, was changed a year later to a week. No, bear with me now. Bear with me. That was changed to a week. And now that was in place for a couple of years. That wasn't good enough, the week. The week has now become a month. 1 month after Election Day, you're allowed to count the ballots that came in. It's 36 days, technically, before the Secretary of State must physically certify the election. But 1 month for the counting. And it was 3 weeks for the mayor's race, which was a small Marxist woman named Karen Bass versus Rick Caruso. And the night that Rick Caruso went to bed, he was up in the mayor's race of Los Angeles, this is 2 years ago. And he woke up the next day and he was still up. Well, that wasn't good enough. They counted for 3 more consecutive weeks until they found enough votes to make Karen Bass the Marxist friend of Fidel Castro, who had been to Cuba 35 times. They made her the mayor of Los Angeles and defeated Rick Caruso by counting for 3 weeks. So the new law is 1 month. It started out with a ballot.
What level of this is at the state level, correct?
At the state level and at the presidential level.
Okay, so state
right.
and state federal, presidential elections.
Yes,
in California.
In California, which is the mega state of 40 million people.
Yeah, always been blue since Reagan, or since after
blue
Reagan.
Since Reagan. So now you get Tom Fitton, who sues them in 2019 for the dead voter rolls. He wins the case, and they're supposed to clear out 1.5 million inactive voters. But as those people are inactive voters, more people become inactive voters because there's all kinds of transients coming and going from California. There's people moving in and out all the time. You could clean off 1.5 million voters from the rolls in California, but there's another million people coming and going, Viva. So you have a situation now where Fitton, who did a great job, by the way, with Judicial Watch, of suing the state of California and winning this case to get 1.5 million dead voters off the rolls. Each month, more and more people leave. Some come in, some don't, blah, blah, blah. Cut to Pennsylvania, which is really what I want to talk about today. If you have any questions about what I just said,
yes, just
ask me now, because I'm going to switch over to today.
Okay, so I had Fitton on the channel. I was just checking the date. It was a little over, maybe a year and a half ago. So they purging the voter roll to get rid of people who are no longer inactive voters.
Yeah.
This is happening in California. It's a uni-party state. It's a single party state.
Yeah.
And the chances, it'll never go Republican again, which is ironic, or maybe it will, but we'll see. This is at a scale now where I'll get to the question, because it's at a scale where I don't know how people don't get arrested for doing this. So they arrest people who actually are picking up other people's mail, which is a federal offense.
Yeah, but that's a low level gang member.
Okay.
That's a low level gang member.
They they then, the question is this, they get the ballot. It's got somebody's name on it. That person is either dead or doesn't live there anymore, doesn't know that
Correct.
they've got a ballot there.
Yeah.
The two questions are, if that person votes in Florida, for example, they move to Florida, and they also vote in California, the only
There's
way
no cross-referencing. There's no cross-referencing.
And then the other question is this, who fills out the ballot? Like, who signs it? That's where
These are Democratic operatives, because once you sell the ballots to the person, maybe running for assemblyman up in Sacramento, he may be running for city council. We had a case where 2 city councilmen outbid each other on the votes, and the other one accused the other one of using dead voter lists because he was embittered. So we know that's the case. It's usually, because it's a one-party state, it's usually Democrat versus Democrat doing this, buying these voter rolls. So you don't know how much the other one has. They use the polling information to see how close a race is by election day. They will bank these votes and yank them out when they have to. And it is an art form. It is a complete art form on how to play the poker match of spending your voting dollars by saying they found 3,000 more votes over here, and they crank them out, and the other guy's got to come out with 3 to counter. This goes back and forth in the 3-week period now, like clockwork. So that's a game by itself. That's a game by itself on how to artfully use the ballots. But from the safe house, it goes to operatives who then fill them out for the particular candidate who's buying them.
It's funny that the only reason nobody cares about what's going on in California is because everybody's living with the foregone conclusion that it can never go anywhere but
That's right.
Democrat. And so nobody can count.
I'm explaining the system. I'm explaining the system because now it's going to be relevant, in my humble opinion, in Pennsylvania.
To the swing states and Pennsylvania in particular. Okay. Especially where you've got a corrupt...
It's not going to be the... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, just a corrupt Josh Shapiro coming out of Pennsylvania.
Right. Again, this is not exactly the same scenario, but I'm going to bring it up to today because you have a situation where the last election, Biden won the state by 80,000 votes. The long count is what's important, not so much the stolen ballots, because that's not happening in Pennsylvania because they don't have the same system as California. But what they do have in Philadelphia and what they do have in blue cities is the long count. And the long count is when they delay the count so they can top the LBJ's opponent, Coke Stevenson. Coke Stevenson's blunder was he told LBJ his final count. LBJ had lost a congressional race 6 years before that when he stupidly, with his campaign manager, a man who was named John Connolly, who will famously get shot in the back in Dealey Plaza, will later become governor of Texas. He was the campaign manager for LBJ. They stupidly told their opponent in the congressional race their final tally. They learned never to do that again.
The long count is everywhere. Like every state can take as long as they want. The idea here is that, what you're going to get into is that if you don't disclose your count, they don't know how many they need to have.
That's what we were talking about at your house. That's exactly right.
Okay, and then some states like Florida don't have a long count anymore. They managed to count all their
ballots.
Broward's
been doing it. Broward's been doing it pretty recently and very good at it. The black woman who was the former counter, she was almost indicted, and there's a black guy now who did it most recently in the primary this summer. If you want to Google that, you'll find that, if I remember correctly, a black man who is now the county registrar of Broward County said his machines broke down and he couldn't get the final tally. You could do anything you want, but the game is not to give out that final number. That's up to the guy. The black woman who was in charge of Broward County just made out she was an idiot, and she couldn't get the final count out of Broward. That was like 8 years ago.
This is incredible. Okay, this is incredible.
Let me go on. Yeah, I just want to continue because it's in 2020 there were 375,000 absentee ballots, right? Coming out of Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia is the nerve center, and Trump is either going to win or lose the election. Everything else is in cement. The entire election, as I've said for 7.5 months, is going to boil down to Philadelphia, because they're now going to delay the count tomorrow for days out of Philly. Now you say, how can they do it? They purchase these machines. Now, I don't mean voting machines. Keep in mind, these are not voting machines. These are absentee ballot opening machines that open them at lightning speed. They open the envelope to allow the counter to remove the ballot and count it physically. Try to understand this. There's nothing to do with the voting machines that we were talking about before. This machine now, there's different kinds of machines, the Optima something or other 2000, and Philadelphia and Allegheny County and Philadelphia County have purchased two different kinds of machines. One is super faster than the other in opening these ballots outside of Reading, President Trump, yes. Okay. The machines that open them, there's two different machines. The Philadelphia machine counts 5,000 votes per hour. Remember this number. The Philadelphia machine, this is the ballot, mail-in ballot opening machine. Keep in mind, we're 375,000 for the 2020 election. There's less now, but still relevant. Allegheny bought the machine that counts 12,000 votes per hour, almost 3 times. Philadelphia intentionally bought that machine to where the county registrar woman said, we don't even want to use the machine because she's trying to slow it down to a snail's pace.
No, Robert, Mark, you see, the problem is they have a tighter budget because they run a bigger city, so they can't get the fancier machine. Only the Allegheny County can.
Right, but
I'm sure there's a budget, whatever.
No, there's really not. There's really not, because I'll tell you why. The machine, she tried to fight the use of the machine until she was overruled by the other commissioners. She wanted to not use the machine, and in the spirit of compromise, said, okay, we'll use the 5,000 ballot per hour counting machine. It's like a thrashing machine, right? So Allegheny County is using the 12,000 per hour machine. Now, who's going to run the machines? You got to have people in that building, right? Okay. So Allegheny County is using 200 workers a night to count the machine. 200. That's all they're going to use. But it's Pittsburgh. Okay. Philadelphia, which is 10 times the size of that, is using 90 workers overnight. 90 stinking people to count the ballots overnight in Philadelphia from these machines that count 5,000 votes per ballots per hour. So 90 people out of the entire city of Philadelphia have been hired to overnight count the mail-in ballots, which they're going to drag out. They're going to drag this out for as long as humanly possible.
Allegheny is roughly 1.2 million and Philadelphia is roughly 1.6. So we're dealing with they're about the same size.
Right. Okay. Yeah. One is bigger than the other, but one of them is using 200 people and the other one's using 90.
And one of them has a machine that counts faster and the other one doesn't. So
that's right.
And Philly's bigger.
It's really important for me as a pragmatic political person to explain this as simply as possible, which I do all the time on the show America's Untold Stories, because this is important to understand. There's a lot of conspiracy theories and everything else. I like to know physically, since I was a little kid, how things physically work. That's why I'm laying this out so carefully. Now, let me get into a company called Field and Media Corporation. You say, who is Field and Media Corporation? They were recently caught by the district attorney of Bucks County and other counties in Pennsylvania. What were they doing? They were requesting mail-in ballots from dozens of counties around Pennsylvania from dead people and people who have left the state of Pennsylvania.
What's the name of that company again?
The name of the company is Field Plus Media Corp. It's an Arizona-based company out of Mesa, Arizona. It's run by a guy named Francisco Heredia. Now, who is Francisco Heredia? Francisco Heredia is the deputy mayor of Mesa, Arizona. He's been hired by the Democrats to go through Pennsylvania and somehow, by hook or crook, and the DNC doesn't give a shit how he gets it, they gave him a contract to get these absentee ballots in multiple counties. So what is he doing? He brings in, here you go, he brings in 3,500 requests in one county for absentee ballots for dead people and people who are no longer in the state. And he gets caught. He gets caught by the district attorney of one county. Here he is right here, the Arizona-based company, Field Plus Media. There he is, Francisco Heredia. He's a Mesa councilman, longtime voting activist, quote unquote, in Arizona. He reports to a group called Everybody Votes Campaign. That's the group above him. That's the next level of Democratic cutouts. So he is going to now report to them how many absentee ballots he would have gotten with the fraudulent applications, Viva, that he got caught turning in Pennsylvania in multiple counties, including Bucks.
I hadn't read that article. I'm just checking to make
Yeah.
sure that Spotlight Pennsylvania
Yeah.
is not a totally bunk outlet. It
No, no,
doesn't
no,
look
no.
like it's a bunk outlet.
No, but it's in multiple.
From whom is this individual, this entity seeking the ballots? Like who are they asking?
Each county in Pennsylvania, his company went in and requested absentee ballots in every county in Pennsylvania.
Blank absentee ballots.
No. Okay, you fill an application. My name is David Freiheit.
Yep.
David Freiheit's dead. I know he's dead, but I'm requesting an absentee ballot in Bucks County. David Freiheit has moved to Florida. I'm
an idiot because he's got the information. He knows which ones to ask for.
Thank you.
And then goes and asks for the ones that nobody's going to object to because they're either not there, senile.
So they caught him with a couple of dead people on there, and he got busted. Now the Attorney General of Pennsylvania is going after his ass. Okay, but that's not going to be resolved tomorrow. That's going to take months, and if they win, it's never going to happen. He's been doing this. I'm just picking on him as a typical out-of-state operative. Now, the guy's from out of state. He's not even from Pennsylvania. He's doing it. He's coming from Arizona out of state to do this. And I'm using Field and Media Corp as an example of how this is done to explain it to your audience.
I want to bring this up just because
it's
going to piss me off. Nothing like insulting your guest by implying he's giving you false info. First of all,
would you stop it?
I thought that Mark is my friend, but second of all,
if
you trust everything that everybody tells you, congrats, you're going to get duped into something. And it's not because someone's your guest that you then take everything they say for gold and gospel.
No,
First of all,
not.
I'm also just providing the evidence so all of you out there can feel comfortable with what's being said right now.
Yeah, he's lawyering up. He's my lawyer. Yeah. This is my. He
I'm
grills me all the time. What did you do with the body?
I
put the body in the trunk. I put the body in the trunk, and I put the car in the river. And then he says, "Well, how are we going to get away with this?" I said, "I don't know. You're the attorney. Let's go."
Also, I'm showing the receipts for YouTube, and anybody else who wants to say this is misinformation, disinformation, kiss Big Bob.
This is not even debated.
So this is wild. So now, who's the Attorney General of Pennsylvania?
Oh, I forget his name. I'm
going to Google that in a second. This is Josh Shapiro's state.
But at the end of the day, in Pennsylvania, Shapiro is going to be the guy who either keeps the count going or ends the count. And that's why it's important to have a Democratic governor for them in a state. And I'm predicting all the other states are solid. I predict all those other battleground states are not going to buckle. Every single part of this election is about, which I've said for 7 months, is about the long count at a Philly tomorrow night, which I think will go into the weekend. And eventually this will decide who runs our nation and how we survive as a culture. Because
like the numbers that we're dealing with, it was 80,000 differential back in 2020.
Yeah.
So let's
they had to pull out. But you're talking about with a larger number of absentee ballots. By the way, it was 375,000 back then, just out of Philly alone. So they don't have as much now to deal with, which is probably an advantage to them. Physically an advantage because they were backing trucks up in the middle of the night there.
Well, it's but that, and it depends on how close the vote is overall. Yeah. The question is,
they use the polling at the end for those purposes. In other words, they know how much they're going to need to top Trump in Pennsylvania. They're not going to need 500,000, but they may need 500,000, and then it becomes as beyond the margin of fraud.
Do they have good poll watchers? The question here, that MAGA Maha libertarians, this doesn't even matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not about poll watchers. I mean, but people have to understand the physics of this. It's not about poll watching.
So what do you, the play then that you suggest is going to happen is Philly is going to say.
The play that I've said to you for years, not you personally, but I've said for years, is for Republican county registrars or county clerks, the person with the final tally in every county, to simply withhold that. And I have called for legislation of this. That counties outside of big cities, and this is relevant to blue cities, usually in red states, the red state county officials must withhold their final counts. Then they can't be stolen because they won't know how many they need. It's a very simple solution. Republican conservatives tend to be so buttoned up and so by the book that they turn it in and then go to dinner and they're done and their job is over and they do everything by the book. What I'm suggesting is you delay turning it in until the big city finalizes their tallies. That's it. That's all I'm asking. I don't think it's illegal. It's not immoral. And I think it's an answer. It's the only one I've been able to come up with. I remember talking to my grandfather when he was alive about it. It is a physical solution to this incredible problem of waiting till Philadelphia is done counting with the ammo. In other words, Philadelphia is just trying to top the number that every Republican county official has given them. That tally. If they don't have that number, this system collapses.
Yeah,
People need to understand this.
If they
If
don't
they
know
don't
the
have
number
the
that they need,
final number, there's nothing they could do to top that final number.
Yeah.
The Republicans are stupidly, in my humble opinion, and naively giving them the ammo to come up with a number that they can top.
if they don't know the number, they can't beat the number.
That's
And
right.
hypothetically, if the number is just too big and they don't have 100,000
Right.
ballots,
Right. That is true. If the number would, but these races are too close to call, Viva. That's why that doesn't apply anymore. They're able to get these races close enough where they can do this. And the Republican conservative county registrars are giving them the final tally. As the reason I mentioned Box 13, the reason I mentioned 1948, the reason I mentioned Coke Stevenson is because they gave the opposition the number they could top. And that's what's being done today by blue cities versus red states.
now the question I had asked on Saturday when we were talking, and then the question I asked Barnes last night is like, what are the legal requirements? Because first of all, it is a terrible thing when one party wants to play by the law and the other one doesn't give a sweet bugger all if they don't, because they control the law. Do you know what the legal requirements are for the obligation to?
According to Pennsylvania, it's all over the map. According to what I've read, Pennsylvania is a mess of various legal requirements in this area. I'm not a voting lawyer, so I don't know every county by county, but it seems to vary. It seems to vary. And it doesn't need to be every county, Viva. It could just be a handful of counties or even one county, theoretically, mathematically.
No, now I'm thinking like, the bus pipe, now they can't count. And so then they get to, I want to bring this one up. So that explains why Trump asked Raffensperger the votes. No, because I think what they're suggesting here is that Trump was saying, play the game of find me fake ballots.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Because what Trump was suggesting that there were legit votes that were not being counted or illegitimate votes that were being counted. I don't think it was a question of get me my briefcase of ballots.
No, absolutely not. That's the way the Democrats construed it, because that's what they do.
That's the way they do it. No, it was so very interesting. So your theory, subject to legal scrutiny from Pennsylvania attorneys, is if they just delay reporting the numbers, then Philly doesn't know how much they need to cheat by in order to win.
That's right. And I think that would apply across the country. I think it would apply to Nashville and Tennessee. I think it would apply to any.
Yeah, or the flip side is I don't know what the law is. You got to have your numbers in by midnight or by 4 in the morning, and everybody releases at the same time.
They won't do that. So what do? You just cry. You just cry like a baby in a fetal position. They won't do it. I mean, look at LA. It's now 3 weeks to a month before the final count. What are you doing? What do you do in Pennsylvania when the machine is being run by a Democratic operative who's the governor, and Philadelphia is going to say tomorrow night, we've got a lot of ballots we haven't counted, we haven't finished yet.
Look at this.
We haven't finished. What are they trying to do? What they're trying to do initially, the first thing they're trying to do is find out the tallies from every red county in the state. That's their first goal. Then they go to work trying to get that amount of ballots. And it doesn't have to be absentee ballots. There's other ways to skin a cat.
Let me just see if there's a, for instance, 2016 took 4 days. I just want to see be patient. Although the conspiracy theories are prevalent in American politics these days. Resist temptation. I'll double check how long they have legally to count the ballots after, because they are going to receive mail-in ballots. I don't know what the rules are in terms of the delay. The delay after which, in terms of postmarked, whether or not it can be.
They already chose the slower machine on purpose. They control the counting by putting just 90 people with no legs or arms in there to count, who are employees of the county voting system. So who's to say how long that's going to take in Philadelphia? Who's to say? You?
No.
The governor? I mean, who's going to say?
Swamp the vote, too big to rig, beat the cheat, and hope that they don't even try to do this.
But that's no way to run an election. Hope that you beat them by enough, but in a neck and neck election, I mean, it's insane.
Mark, let me bring up a super chat or a Rumble rant over on the Rumble side because it's from our good friend Anton at Biltong. Add some biltong to your diet as a high-protein snack alternative packed with B12, zinc, iron, creatine. The more, get yourself some at biltongusa.com. Viva 10 for 10% off. We also have dried fruit. And Anton streams Fridays and Sundays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, live on Rumble, only shit-talking and cooking real food. Follow me. Click my avatar. The biltong is delicious stuff. I think I might be eating too much of it. We'll see what the cardiologist has to say. You cannot. Well, you can eat too much. I like when I eat them by the bag. It's flipping delicious. I love beef jerky, and this is sort of like softer beef jerky, and it doesn't hurt my jaw. It's flipping delicious. But Anton, I'm asking Anton if there's too much that a man can eat by way of biltong.
Well, no man has found out yet. You're going to find out.
We're going to find out. I'm going to get too much whatever B12. Interesting theory, Mark. What's your schedule for tomorrow night? Because you are in. We're
going to go into the hotel here in West Palm Beach, Boca rather. I'm going to go from West Palm to Boca, and we're going to go into a hotel and a ballroom. People are coming already. Apparently, the hotel called me that they're already checking in and making me nervous how many people are coming. And then we're going to do a live show covering the election. We'll have a big screen TV. We'll have a projection TV. Then we're going to have guests come in, streaming in. You know, interestingly enough, like Alex Stein, 99, is going to be coming in from Kamala Harris headquarters. I don't know how he got in there.
Alex Stein is going to pop in tomorrow night?
Yeah, he's popping in tomorrow night. The J6 attorney, Rabbi Jonathan Gross, is popping in. Dr. Drew is popping in. The young Nate Hockman is popping in. We got a lot of pop-ins.
That's going to be fantastic. Yeah, because everybody's look, I'm going to
be having a dinner and drinks and blah, 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 the whole usual.
Yeah, I'm popping in as well because we're going to be live. We're going to have our stream set up, and I'm going to pop in with Dave Rubin. Now it's been confirmed for 11:30. First of all, I want to be home. I want to be close. And just in case stuff goes sideways, I want to cry alone. It's not going to happen.
We're going to cry together. We're going to cry as a group.
It's not going to happen. I'm telling you that there's a shift in the zeitgeist now. What I was thinking of doing tomorrow, if I can't find a way to volunteer to drive people to and from the polling stations, voting stations, I'll maybe just go to a couple of Kamala Harris campaign headquarters and ask them some questions to see if I can get an interview.
Well,
I made a joke.
That's what Stein's ostensibly doing.
That's what, and Jack Posobiec made a joke with. He says, "Viva, if you can't do that, go to one of the stations." Like, problem is, I got a partially torn MCL, so I can't run as fast as I might need to.
They can get you. They'll get you.
Amazing. So we'll see, man. What are you doing? Well, I won't ask what you're doing today.
No, I got to run around. I got to do Emerald Robinson show at 4:30. I got some other shows I got to do. Trying to explain this to people. I guess you get it right now that I explained it.
I totally get it. The only question is whether or not it's, and I appreciate the idea. Like, we can't do it legally.
Yeah.
Like something happened. Someone got stomach flu and they can't. We'll get it to you. We'll get it to you. I understand.
Yeah, just delay the turning out. I'm not saying to alter it or do anything. Get your tally and sit on it. Make Philadelphia produce their number. Make Allegheny County produce their final tally.
We'll just say, well, look,
at least play the game.
We will release them at the time you release yours. Show me yours. I'll show you mine.
I just gave you the history. There's plenty more examples. I just gave you a brief history: 1948, 1960. 1968, 2015. This is not something that I pulled out of my ass. This is pretty well recorded history in the United States.
Mark, I'm going to do a quick locals only after party, so I won't keep you longer for that. And then I got to go to a doctor, so I've got. I've got Douglas Mackey coming on at 5:00. So
okay, so I'll come back. I'll watch it at home.
It'll be good. Douglas Mackey is the guy who got convicted of election interference for his tweet. Skip the line, vote by text. Don't do that. People get and vote in person. But it's going to be amazing. Mark, we'll see each other tomorrow night if we don't see each other.
We'll see each other tomorrow night and maybe this weekend. What about the school play? Let me talk to you about that later. Marion said, tell him when the shows are. And I said, but that's not a question. He's like, don't tell him. Don't ask a question. How long is it? Can you get out if it goes bad?
You can sneak out. Apparently, one of us has got to go to all 4 shows. My kid is starring in a play, so I've got to.
All right, we'll talk about this later.
Absolutely,
we'll figure it out. All right, goodbye.
I'll call you, Mark. Thank you very much.
Okay, goodbye.
All right, see you soon. Okay. People, let me see what time it is here. I got to be out. Hold on. Let me just see how long it's going to take to drive, and then I'll see how much time I can stay here for. This is go to text messages, go down here, see when I got the confirmation. Everything is so cool. Yeah, by the way, Jiffy Lube is amazing. I can't get over how efficient Jiffy Lube is. Just a reminder that I have an appointment. Okay, let me see here. Just go create. Damn it, they should give me the address. Okay, here's the address. So by the looks of it right now, it's going to take me 30 minutes to get there. So I've got 25 minutes if I'm leaving it to the absolute last minute. So let's do it. People, I'm going to end the stream on I'm going to do this. We're going to end it. We're going to come over to Locals. We're going to have our after party. I got some stuff set up. And this is going to be for non-supporters. So this will be for everybody. You don't have to be a supporter. You can be a member. And we will carry on the party over there. Was there anything else I forgot to say? 5 o'clock this afternoon, Douglas Mackey. So stay tuned. I got to set that up. Actually, I got to do a bunch of stuff. Okay, let's go to Locals. People, get out there and vote tomorrow. And may it be a day of joy. One way or another, someone's going to be devastated. Someone's going to be elated. People are going to be doing victory laps, and other people are going to be hanging their heads in shame at predictions that did not come true. The only thing I know is that one side is objectively right and one side is objectively wrong. And I also know that the other side that I say is objectively wrong is saying the same thing. This is the world in which we live. But I know that I'm objectively right. So with that said, people, going to end it on YouTube. I'll see you tonight. End it on Rumble. End it on Twitter and Locals. I'm coming over. Okay, so